Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, we're live. Welcome to my live stream. So today what I'm going to be working on is going to be pretty exciting. I am going to be probably working on fixing up a guitar, and we're going to be trying something new on the stream. So you'll notice like I usually have like cool glowy lights and stuff set up in the room and stuff like that. Instead, today we're actually going to be doing part of the live stream in my kitchen and then part of it here. And it's going to be an experiment, so we'll see if it works. But the main reason for that is shipment that just arrived today. So in this is a new set of tuners for my classical guitar that I'm fixing up. It's like a little side project. I completely refretted and kind of reworked and filed a new nut and like replaced like a saddle on a Yamaha like Red Label, a classic kind of vintage instrument that I ended up picking up at like a Goodwill. And I kind of got the bug to try that again, but with more of a challenge. So this time I actually got like a weird acoustic guitar that I have never heard of. That's a classical acoustic. And I'm going to be taking that and then eventually refretting it, replacing the nut and the saddle as well. And also possibly like refinishing. I don't know how much work it's going to need. But it definitely needs new tuners because like the tuning pegs on the classical guitar were kind of bent. And so we'll kind of take a look at that. I'll probably show you guys a peek at the Yamaha that I fixed up before we get into this new project. And I got home and I was like, man, let me show you guys on my art stream. So here's my little art stream setup. So this is the page that I've got finished for Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. This is the black and white sections of it. So I've been working on this for a while. We're at page 97 now, which is kind of exciting. And I hadn't been streaming while working on a lot of these things. And I was realizing like I need to do an art stream, but I also really want to work on my guitar. And I was realizing, hey, you know what's cool? I could actually stream while working on my guitar, and we'll see if that works out. So if you're listening and you're watching this, I'm going to rely really heavily on you guys once we switch over to the other view. Excuse me. The other view from my kitchen or whatever, where I'm going to be working on probably filing, doing some interesting stuff with the guitar. I'm not going to do the full rework of it. It's going to be like a long-term project, partially because I know it needs a refret. I have brass frets on order, so they haven't arrived yet. So I can't even refret it. I can't begin the process till I make sure that the frets that I receive will fit, because it's a classical guitar. It's a very old vintage one. And so like the frets are a lot wider than most fret packs. And I believe what I ordered will work. But before I go and like pull all the old frets, which can, it's a really kind of crazy process. And I love to live stream while doing it because it's kind of nuts. You have to like heat the fret with a soldering iron and like pull it out with these special pliers and stuff like that. But before I get into that deep of work, I need the parts. So the only parts I have so far are the new tuners. And so I'll show you guys the old tuners, why they need to be replaced, and then what we have to do with these new ones to make them work. And then hopefully they work. Hopefully we can make that work. So it's going to be interesting. It could be a total failure or a disaster. Thomas said craft time with Josh. Hopefully not spicy crafting. You never know. The spice man cometh when you least expect it. So anyway, what I'm going to do is probably transfer us over to the other view. And then you guys in chat will have to let me know whether you can hear me, because I have a mic set up in there, and I think we'll be doing a lot of the stream from there. So, and then again, like I said, after the guitar stuff, we'll come back to this page right here, and we'll start laying out color for it to get page 97 done of this beautiful book that we're working on. So it's exciting times, guys. It should be fun. It's a Friday night, and so hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it and spend time with me on it. So let me go ahead and let's get the cam pulled up. Look at that. That's the kitchen. The little pug thing. It's really not the best view. Okay. There's some weird echo happening that I'm hearing. So what I'm going to do is mute this mic. I'm going to play a real quick video, and when we come back, I'll be in that room setting up my guitar. I'll show you guys the old Yamaha. And we'll play... And we'll play Frank's lovely... we'll play Frank's amazing video while that's going, so that like basically while I switch over, and hopefully everything works seamlessly. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, here we go, guys. We're gonna work on guitars. When we come back, we'll work on awesomeness here. Thanks for being here. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications, all that fun stuff. And without further ado, let me bow out, and then we'll play a commercial.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice.
We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Cremble.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found these sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble.
Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. Two Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide.
You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. Alright, let's go.
All right. So, can you guys hear me okay? I noticed Thomas is in the chats. If you're still there, let me know if you can hear me okay, because this is the new location for the for this thing with a bunch of art rolls for my kid and like, you know, China and stuff like that. But the nice thing about this is, boom, a table that I can work on. So hopefully. Can you guys hear me? Let me know in the chats. I don't want to keep going. Nice. Thomas said loud and clear. So we have a mic hooked up. So first I'm going to show you guys the guitar that I set up and did this on for the first time and dumbly didn't do streaming or anything like that while working on it. And I'm like, man, you know, it's a fun process. It's going to be in a lot of stages. But I think if you guys see what goes behind this, you know, and me figuring it out, I'm no luthier. Nice. Thomas said you took care of the roominess sound. Good. Nice. That's good. So anyhow, so what we're going to get into is I'm going to show you guys the Yamaha Red Label that I fixed up, and then I'll show you the cheap classical guitar that I found at a Goodwill for $6. And it was in bad shape. Like the nut on it was like offset. I'll show you some of the parts too, that like the tuners that I'm replacing. I wish I had shown it. I did on my Instagram show like a before picture before I cleaned it up. I ended up like oiling the fretboard and polishing it down to get rid of like, there was like paint marks on it and stuff like that. And what was interesting was the second I like started oiling the back of it, suddenly all the figuring on the wood came out, and it was really exciting. So anyhow, before I show you the classical guitar, let me show you the one that I did for my first fret job on. I can't play it much because everybody's sleeping, so I might be able to get away with a chord. This is my tuner and my capo because we're already recording with it. But so this, and then a humidifier. So this is a Yamaha Red Label, and it was in bad shape. Like the frets were worn thin. You can see it right here. The red label is just indicating, I don't know if you guys can see it too well, but that thing that says FG75, that's the model number. Underneath it says Nippon Gakkai, which is a really legendary little guitar. Here, let me pull this a little closer. So basically when I got this, like the nut was torched. The this saddle was like worn to the bottom of this, and the strings had kind of actually hit some of this bridge, so that they had cut the bridge. So what I ended up doing was, and then the fretboard was just a disaster. So the first thing I did with this was I wanted to keep the original tuners because they were in pretty good shape, and it's like a classic vintage guitar. I popped off the nut, and then I ordered new stainless steel jumbo frets because I like those, and I was curious how jumbo frets would work on a like little tiny parlor guitar like this. Turns out they work well. I ended up having to replace the saddle and then sand down the saddle so that it would fit. I radiused the fretboard, so I sanded and radiused the whole thing. But if you look at it now, it's like It's real pretty and clean. And then I cleaned the crap out of it. And it just looks amazing. It plays amazing. Still has some war wounds, which I like because it shows like the vintageness of the guitar. But it just plays awesome. It's a little out of tune right now, but anyhow, we're not playing guitar today. But anyhow, so I managed to get the frets in, do a pretty good job, crown them, and recut a new nut, which I had to sand to kind of fit and intonate. And we ended up fixing up a guitar that I think this guitar initially cost me like $50 or $60. And these things used usually go for, $200 or $300 at minimum for a red label, in good shape. So putting it in good shape was really nice. And it does have a great tone. And it just reminded me how much I like vintage guitars. So that was my first project. Action's good. I'm already recording with it. I love this guitar. And so that was the Yamaha. Okay. Now we're going to get into the weeds of the other stuff. So this is the classical guitar that I ordered, and it looks way better than when it came in the mail. When it came in the mail, it was just dirty as hell, so I had to clean this whole thing. Oh, nice. They said, just noticed your scroll collection up there. Very vintage. Yeah, those scrolls are just rolled up newsprint that my son paints on. This is like our little junk corner, but so it's got our bad fridge and our kitchen and all that stuff. First time filming in this, but yes, it does look kind of ancient and cool with like the scroll. So this thing is called a what is it called? Let's see. It's called a Guitarras de Calidad. It's a Jom, and it's a classical guitar, which I was curious about because I have a lot of decent guitars. I definitely have like more than I need of dreadnoughts. Like I have a lot of good dreadnoughts. I have now got a really good parlor guitar, which I just showed you guys. Like that cuts it for parlors. And so I was like, but I don't have a classical guitar. And I saw this on auction for like $6. And I was like, you know what? There's something about it that intrigued me. And it was this. I know it's weird, but the rosewood like discolors. And then here, similarly, the wood actually discolors. I think like the treatment they put on the wood or the paint or whatever it is, like came off. And underneath you see like some pretty good wood. And so it's like, I bet that's a pretty darn good guitar. Thomas says, unrolling the ancient scrolls of guitar repair. So anyhow, so this came in, it had the strings on it. It was still playable, but if you see the frets on this, I mean, these things are worn. Like I cleaned them up, but they're like worn so close to the board. They're almost flat. And I know that on classical guitars, frets, come up a bit, but these are just torched, like, because this is probably like a 40 or 50-year-old guitar. So that's the first thing I did was condition the fretboard because it was really dry. So what you do with that is just oil it. And I used, oil to kind of go through it. I ended up cleaning this so much. It's like this took so much cleaning to get rid of all the paint and dirt and dander. And then what was neat was, maybe you guys will be able to see it okay. When I did clean it, there's like figuring in the wood. Like the wood is actually figured, which may not come across that well on this camera. But yeah, it's like figured on the sides. And so it's actually like very beautiful wood. And so the bones of this are really nice. So I was going to remove the nut, but what's interesting is while I was cleaning it, the nut had been installed so badly that literally like one wipe of oil here and the nut just fell off. So there's like a tiny piece of nut that I'm going to have to sand off. If you see that little white thing, but we're going to have to install a nut. The saddle, like the saddle on the bridge, is in pretty good shape, so we might reinstall it depending on what the intonation's like, or we might put in a new saddle. So that's going to be on the dock. What I eventually am going to do, unfortunately, I love these like I love these fret markers so much, but they're painted on. This is a very old guitar, and classical guitars traditionally don't have fret markers. I love these, but I'm going to have to redo this fretboard. So that means pulling out these frets and then eventually sanding up and down on the neck. And it will probably take off those beautiful fret marks. But my goal here is playability. So we're probably going to lose those little fret markers, which is sad because I'm not a classical guitarist. So I'll probably be a little lost on the fretboard because there's no side dots, Anyhow, so but I also took out the tuners, and I'll show you what the shape that the tuners were in, and then we'll get everything set up to kind of see what we can do about new tuners. So I'm going to put this to the side, and I'm going to set this back a little bit, and you guys let me know in the chats if this is interesting. I thought it would be interesting because I like guitar stuff. I watch a lot of guitar blogs, and I don't have the production set up like I do for my art for working on guitars, but because I'm working on guitars, I want to bring you guys along on the journey. And I think, there's got to be other art people who like guitars and fixing up guitars. All right, so let me open my little box of trinkets. I have like a box of guitar tools over here. Wow. See that? That's guitar tools. There's a whole bunch. But in here is also a bag where I was keeping, there's a bag where I was keeping all the stuff that I took out of the guitar. So let's take a look at that, if I can find it. Okay, I ordered this. This is cool. I thought the bridge might need replacement. I don't think it does. So I don't think we need a new bridge. But the saddle, if I need a new saddle, this is a buffalo saddle. So it's buffalo bone, and this is a new nut that I can then file down to where it fits the intonation of the guitar. So that's a project to happen after I do the neck and stuff like that. And then I have other replacement parts, another extra nut just in case I need it. But strings, that's another thing. My classical strings I ordered from Sweetwater, they haven't come yet, so I again can't. That's another reason I can't really do the neck yet. And then a lot of this is stuff for other guitars, but here is the bag of doom. So let's show you the condition I was dealing with here. So on this guitar, classical guitar tuners are interesting. They're very different. These are the vintage original saddles of that classical guitar. So if you notice, this saddle is bent. It's wildly bent. The metal is literally just bent, like out of shape. Now it's still usable. And were this like a red label, like the Yamaha, I would really want to keep the integrity of the instrument. But it's not. So these are okay. They're passable. They're still moving really slickly. I was impressed by how well they move. Like, it's kind of shocking considering these are probably from the 70s. They still move pretty well. And then again, just in case you guys are unfamiliar, these, pop into here, and they pop through the center, which it doesn't go all the way through the center holes. And they're a little tight. But again, once you get them in there, it just sits flush there, and you just screw it in. on the side to where like the side should look like this. However, because these were in such bad shape, so rusty, and also because we're going to be installing to match this beautiful kind of cheap brass kind of look, I actually ordered brass frets. So we're going to be getting cool brass frets. And because we're going brass, I was like, well, we got gold here. We should have gold here. So since I ordered new tuners, I've got these. Bagoosh. Beautiful new tuners. They arrived in the mail today. I like that they have this like faux pearl kind of thing going where they swirled the acrylic in there so that it kind of looks like pearl. And I like the little pattern, and I like that they're gold and they'll match the frets. So these arrived, and all I was going to do today was basically install nice. Some person said nice looking tuners. Thank you. They are pretty nice. So I was going to just install these, right? I was like, okay, the holes match up. Everything's perfect on these. Let me find like the equivalent. The holes match up. The shape matches up. It's much more modern. But the only problem with these is when I started slotting them in, I realized there's one thing that doesn't match up. So if I line these up, you'll see what I'm talking about. These are significant, these old ones, the knob thing on there, this one is significantly shorter than this by like about a quarter of an inch. So when I try to put these in, let me show you. When I try to put these in, which this side, the like harp looking thing should go to the top, you'll see the issue. We got about a little bit too much distance. Can you guys see that gap? There's a gap between the edge of the metal and the wood. And initially I was thinking, oh, they're just not shoved in enough. But then I realized, nope. Like everything on a guitar, and I learned this with the last acoustic project, I need to sand down these ends flush so that they can go in evenly. So that's probably what we're going to work on tonight is I'm going to, get a sander out, bust this over the sander on a flat surface on sandpaper. And we're going to try to knock off probably about the little notch in here because these are made for a different kind of guitar, I think. And we're going to see if that allows it to fit. And if it does on one, then we're going to repeat on the other, and then we're going to install them. And hopefully that works well. So without further ado, that's what we're going to be working on. So I'm going to get some sandpaper out and stuff like that and see how we can do with that. I'll show you some other stuff too real quick before we get into it. We might end up replacing this. This is the saddle. It's kind of like really badly cut at the bottom. That was the base. It's really stained from being in there for like 20 years. It's pretty torched at the top and it's pretty far down on the guitar. So I think we might fix this up. Maybe cut or file a new one. That's not going to be tonight. But that'll be a process probably after we do the neck work and stuff like that. And then we got the nut, which is just in bad shape in general, and was actually, when it was installed at a tilt like this, which is bizarre. So we need to recut a new nut. Luckily, we have a new nut. Also, this thing is like cheap. I think it's plastic, which is weird because this feels more like bone. This one feels like plastic. That's very strange. But I'm going to take a wild guess because there's like a seam line on this. I'm going to take a wild guess and say these are probably both plastic. So replacing with a bone nut and saddle will help the tone of the guitar immensely. So anyhow, that's basically what we're going to be working on. Nothing super exciting. but that's what I want to do before working on comics. So I'm going to put this back in my baggie of OG stuff. This is a pro tip. If you're ever working on a guitar, on the off chance that the value goes up, and you have to replace parts like tuners, things like that, keep the originals in a bag and store them away. For one thing, when you're working on guitars, you never have enough spare parts. So there might be a time where I need to use these. I don't know why, but I might, or maybe I just need one of the little cogs or something from the tuner, or maybe I need some of the screws, whatever. But the other thing is, if I ever resell this guitar and there's somebody who really wants all the original parts, boom, I've got them. And again, if I'm working on something like the Red Label, I don't have that worry because I'm not going to replace functional tuners on a Red Label. I'll keep the old ones. This one I can be a little less precious with because, again, I also only invested, $6 on the classical guitar. So I feel like I'm already winning just because the wood's pretty good quality. And the build quality seems pretty good. The neck seems in good shape, which is good because on this, a lot of old classical guitars have this problem. The Yamaha has a truss rod. It's a old truss rod. It doesn't work as well as like the new double action truss rods, which is like a rod they put into the neck that you can adjust. Old classical guitars don't have any truss rod. So this thing, you're pretty screwed if the neck is off angle. You just have to do a full neck replacement, which is tough with a neck like this. And I think that's above my pay grade. Luckily, this neck's in great shape. So, okay. So that's basically the plan. I went through it. Let's get some sandpaper and we'll start there. And then after that, we'll install it onto the guitar and see how that goes. So I have some different grits of sandpaper, generally for sanding wood and stuff like that, in my little box of goodies, like a whole stack of them. I'm not going to pick a high, crazy, 2,500 grit. I'm going to start with something, maybe a 400 grit to sand this down. But we might do something a little even smaller grit if we have it. Yeah, sweet. We got 240 grit, which you can tell I've already used fixing up the Yamaha. But that's just one little spot. Let's see if there's enough room for this one. Yes, there is. So this is still good. So we'll do this 250. Let me see if I can find another piece of 250 in here. My little badly organized. Oh, 240. I keep saying 250. Kind of weird that they go by 40, right? Usually it's by fives. Why would you do 240 and not 250? If anybody knows and is an expert on sandpaper, explain that to me. Okay, put my stack back, and I'll just move this down so you guys can kind of see what I'm working on. Okay. So all I'm going to do is lay this flat, and in theory, just go like this a bunch of times till we knock off a good chunk of that plastic. And we'll see how well it sands. Hopefully it sands okay. I'm going to try getting most of this all the way to the inner edge of this little bevel, and we'll see if that gives it enough give to fit in. So this might be a long thing, but I think with 240, it shouldn't be too long. So we're just going to just keep kind of going across. And I'm making sure I'm on a flat surface. So is that doing any damage? Sure looks like it. Not a ton, but we'll get there. Can you guys hear me okay too in the chats? So we're basically just going to sand these down to where they can fit. And again, look, we're already making some pretty good headway. The nice thing about sandpaper, man, with guitars, it's like a magic ingredient. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like you want to think of working on a guitar kind of as similar to like working on a wood shop or something like that. And so look at that. We're almost like halfway there. This 240 is doing real good. Maybe we'll smooth it out too once it fits, depending, because this isn't going to be a visible edge, but it still might be nice to like round it off at the end. For those of you who like ASMR too. So again, we're almost there. We're taking off the end and we're trying to get it flush so that it'll sit real nice in the guitar. The key is you don't want to take off too much, right? Because that would just destroy the tuners. And what's crazy about guitar work that I'm learning is a lot of things that are kind of intuitive like that, where you're like, I wonder if I could sand off this to make it fit. It actually, a lot of the tricks are that, where it's like a lot of making a nut for a guitar, a lot of working on a saddle for a guitar. It's just like slowly sanding. A lot of refinishing a guitar is like wet sanding, which we might end up doing on this guitar. We'll see. Oh man, we're real close here. Sorry about the noise. It sounds like a dog whining, you know? Okay, I think we're kind of close to there. So I'm just going to do a couple more passes. I thought that was going to take way longer. But I guess with 240 grit, you know. Yeah, 240 grit, it's going to go a lot quicker than I give it credit for. Dude, we are so close. Look at that. It's getting there. Okay. Whew. I didn't realize this would be like annoyingly squeaking. Some person says, you never know, you might find an audience that likes the chalkboard squeak. Yeah, I don't even like the chalkboard squeak. But we're getting there, guys. Just a little bit more. Go the other way too. I'm going to go ahead and thread my fingers in there to kind of even it out. And you can't see my expression right now, but I'm like wincing every time it goes squeak. How are you guys doing? What are you guys doing tonight? It's a Friday night. I hope you guys are working on cool stuff. Being inspired, you know? We're really close here. I think it's going to take probably like a whole thing of sandpaper. We're going to blow through, I think, a sheet to do this. I'm trying to find good sides because I'm cheap. Don't want to replace the sandpaper. I think that's good enough. So I'm going to try this and see if that's far enough. And then if it is, the nice thing is we'll know that will be the depth that we can do this. So to compare, we took like a good chunk off. We'll see if that's enough. Okay, so we got our acoustic guitar. You know, usually when I'm working on my guitar too, I'll have like a guitar mat, and I was going to pull that out, but I think we can manage to do at least the fitting, just to make sure it fits before that. And it's close, but no cigar. So we need to take it down. It's real close. Wow. Okay. So I don't think I was wrong in my initial assessment. I think it needs to be the full ledge on there. So we're almost there. We're not quite there. So let's try a cleaner sheet of sandpaper and see if that'll, take a little more off. It's actually, I think it's because I think these are actually plastic. So they make a much worse noise. Like if that were bone, weirdly enough, when you sand a bone nut, it just makes like a kind of nice noise, I don't know if that makes sense. This isn't a so nice noise. Oh, we're so close, guys. But I do think this will work to kind of solve that issue. Because I really like these tuners. I don't want to have to get another set that has a different end when we can just customize these. Let me show you guys what I'm working on too. It's getting there, getting real close. So anyhow, I'd love to hear what you guys are working on. I can't actually see the view count from this camera. So for all I know, 0 people are watching right now. Let me know if you're watching this, finding this interesting at all. Okay. I think we're in a better spot now. Those are pretty close to flush. Let's see if it did the duty. Did it do it? Show you guys a better view. Dude, boom. Look at that. It sits flush now. Nice. Some person said, just looking at some graphic design books, refreshing my memory. Nice. It's good to have. It's good to refresh. I'm also noticing that one of the holes on these weren't drilled, because the holes do line up, but they didn't drill one of the holes. So we'll see if it can push in without splitting the wood. It's a small enough... Oh, maybe the hole is there. Interesting. That's strange. Let's see here. But anyhow, regardless, nicely, this does fit, which is good news. So we've got this working. We've got this fitting, which is exciting. And now we're going to move on to the next one. So now we have our template, which literally is, we just have to knock off these ends entirely. Maybe I can do just a little bit of a cleanup. Yeah, because this one of these had like a craggly end. All right, let's find another 240. We're almost there. Hopefully we have another 240. Watch, we'll be out of 240 and it'll be like end of stream. 240. Woo. And do I have one more? I do have another 240. That might be all my 240, so I might need to order. No, we got way more 240. Okay, cool. So I was like, I might need to order more sandpaper, but I think we're good. So I'm gonna set these aside. They're pretty torched, and we'll go on to do it all over again. See if this works. Again, we want to kind of see how that sits flush. It doesn't. So again, I'm going to just kind of do it all over again. And I'm more confident now that this will work, which is exciting. Because it was just a suspicion that might work. This is the work we're going to do before cartooning tonight, guys. It's kind of how my mind works. If I get something in my mind like this, it's like I kind of have to see it through before I can focus on the next thing. I don't know if you guys have that. But for me as an artist, like even a pursuit like fixing up a guitar, you know, we're getting there. Getting those little ends off. Sorry out there to any luthier who might be looking at this and going, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" But this is kind of part of like learning a craft. This is how I learned art, you know, and I feel like luthiery or whatever is like not that much different, where it's a lot of it's just practice and logic and kind of reverse engineering, and then just time and patience and frustration, you know. Same person said, for some reason this doesn't annoy me. Usually ASMR does. It's probably just my magic personality, right? So this will be part one of working on this guitar. At this point, we're just getting the tuners in. I'm really excited for when the frets come, which might be like a week from now. Because the problem with those parts is they take a while. I have a fret file that I ordered from StewMac that's like not coming in until like the 14th or something. So I think that's one of the other things is you start building an arsenal of stuff, you know, and then you have to order less, but until you have that arsenal, it can be kind of a pain. We're almost there. We're really close. Now I want to get this side because it seems... Oof. Sorry. That other side was a lot more fun to listen to, right? We're very close. We're very, very close. It's like the cheap side of me doesn't want to waste another thing of sandpaper. So we'll see if some of these ones I was burning through still have some grit. Oh man, we are so close, guys. That noise, it's killing me. I promise we'll listen to some art. We'll work on some art and coloring after this. Okay, I think we're there. So, Let's compare the heights. And yeah, I think we're pretty much there. So that's cool. Exciting. We saved a sheet of sandpaper. I'm going to fold this and then put it over here, and then we'll have to set up the guitar. Yeah, it's a fair point. Some person was saying you should shake some of the dust off, maybe brush it off. I agree. Okay. Okay, so I need to set up my guitar. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and set up my guitar mat and put this to the side just for now. Okay, let's get the guitar mat set up. Easy peasy. It's always good to have like a mat of some kind to get your guitar going. I'm on my older mic here, so hopefully this is still, kind of working okay, facing the right direction. So you just want a good guitar mat. We'll put this down. Doesn't need to be like too fancy. Just needs to kind of carry across the table. This is the blister pack that these came in. You know what I'll do? I'm just gonna set them in there as like a little tray so I don't lose it. And then I'll put this down so you guys can see. We're gonna have our blister pack tray. We're gonna have our guitar mat. Remind me to put the humidifier back in my Yamaha before kind of getting going on this. We got a little neck rest. We're going to pop this here. And we'll probably move this just so hopefully you can see the part I'm going to be working on. See how well we can angle this. I just have to move some stuff to kind of make that work. Okay, and maybe there we go. Boom. Okay, so I think we'll tilt this and then we'll put them in. What we're going to do real quick though, I'm going to go ahead and play another trailer, and then we'll come back with a bang. Let me find the screwdriver real quick before we do that. Whew. Are these Phillips heads? Yes, they are. Is this a Phillips head? Yes, it is. Boom. Okay, so I'm going to play a quick trailer and then we'll be right back. If you guys are enjoying this, hit the like button. In about, after I get these screwed in, probably be another, 20, 30 minutes. Then we'll get into coloring comics. So let me know what you guys think in the chats. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me on a Friday night, working on fun stuff. And we'll be right back.
and things, they split at the seams.
All right, we're back and ready to rock. So we're going to just do... Oh, the only problem with this is going to be a little tipsy-turvy. Let's try a little more neck support there. Okay. Whew. Okay, so there's one thing I kind of want to check out before I get into this. Because the screw holes do line up, but they don't line up. So I want to make sure I've got the orientation of these tuners correct. Because basically, in theory, the old ones, the screw holes should align perfectly. In theory. They do. Am I crazy in that these screw holes... Oh, they might be slightly... They almost look like a perfect match. That's a bizarre part. Interesting. So they are like a perfect match. So in theory, this should work quite well. So we'll just pop these in. Yeah, move this so it's a little closer to me. And then we can move this so you guys get a better view. So in theory, I should be able to just pop these in a similar way, and they should just line right up. And they kind of do, but they kind of don't. So we might need to drill some new holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the screws in the holes that exist, and then we might have to get a drill and pre-drill the screw holes for the next thing, which is fun. I can show you guys how to do that. Because I don't want to split the wood. So we're going to put in, like, the top measures, okay. And that lines up. Could have sworn these like lined up perfectly. That's the bizarre thing. But it turns out the bottom two are a little bit off. Anytime I'm working with tuners, I like to manually drive in the screws. Because otherwise you risk kind of damaging the guitar. That is really exciting. Just kind of fun to see. Okay, so I might have to disappear again to get a screwdriver to drill the holes for the last two screws. So like anything, like any project, I view this as very similar to comics where you're like, oh, this will take a minute. And then something comes along that just complicates the heck out of it. But so far looking good with the two screws. We just have to basically put in the last two to kind of make it work. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then we will get a drill. So at least we're making a little content before we go to another commercial. Oh. That was me making an amateur mistake. That might be why they weren't lining up. I literally put these on backwards. That is me not paying attention. So maybe they do line up. Let's find out. I win the internet today, guys. I had it facing the right way, but the wrong way. I put in the wrong one. Keep in mind, I've done this a million times with electric guitars. With a classical guitar, I have never done this. So this should be correct. If these screws line up, I'll be so stoked. I still don't think they line up. Okay, but we'll find out. So again, putting in the screw. Try to get this a little closer for you guys. How's it looking on the other side? Yeah, these still need to be drilled. Okay, so we still will do both sides real quick, and then I'll get the drill, which will take a second. Another thing you can do if you're worried about having extra holes, like if this was a more expensive guitar than a $7 guitar, what I might do is plug the holes. And the way you would do that is use wood glue, drip it in there, and then you basically break off like a toothpick, pop it in there, break it off, and then sand it. In this case, I'm not super precious about this because, again, it's like, like I want it to be great, and I'm going to take my time with it, but I'm more worried about playability. And taking a guitar that was close to not playable. It's too bad there's a little ding in the finish there, but I think this is going to be a beautiful guitar when we're done. Mark my words, you guys. I mean, here's the thing. Like, well, I can't show you right now, but the rosewood on the fretboard is unbelievable. It's got this weird, discolored, beautiful, pattern on the rosewood. And when I saw this thing on Goodwill, I was just like, man, I gotta get that. I don't care what condition it's in, we'll make it work. I knew it would have to be refretted when I got it. So, and honestly, I'm learning how to refret, so it's kind of a fun. This will be my second refret job, assuming I can get these tuners working. Oh, you guys can't see that. There we go. Okay. Check. And we're almost done. So there's screw number 2. I want to thread those screws. There we go. Nice and tight. Nice and tight. Okay, we're going to go get this the screwdriver, and then I'll show you guys how to pre-drill holes on a guitar for inserting screws. So give me 2 seconds. Here, let me show you. Yeah, some person said that's probably a French finish. Yeah, I might end up French polishing it. I have some polish too, but I might do something similar to a French polish in a little bit. So, look at that wood. It's really, I gotta put it at an angle or something for you guys to see it. But it's beautiful, beautiful rosewood. on the fretboard. It's insane. And it's got like this crazy striping. And again, it's got this irregularity. I love that. I love the irregularity here. I'm like, I want this thing to work because it has just some lovely, it's not even translating. Like, it's always hard to have, that actually shows it a little bit. You can kind of see a little bit of it, but not much. And I just realized I'm talking over here as if the mic's still over here and it's right over here. But anyhow, I think it's a beautiful looking guitar. That's going to look real classy once those are screwed in. So let me play one more commercial and we'll get the drill, and then we'll come back and rock and roll this. Okay, so we're going to have a drill. We're going to make it work, and stay tuned. And we're going to play a trailer real quick. When we come back, we'll have a drill. All right.
We know that Georgia kids say the craziest thing.
So, little Susie, do you have any brothers or sisters? I understand you're in 3rd grade. How do you like that? Do you like your teacher? You like to do a lot of fun things at school? You got any hobbies, Susie? Any things you like to do when you're not in school? I hear you like to read.
Well, right now I'm reading 2 stories written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It grapples with faith and mental illness. It's ultimately a story about redemption. It's a savage piece of writing. Also, I just finished up Jacob's Apartment, another one by Kemble. Jacob's Apartment weaves together elements of spiritualism and relationship dynamics, as well as atheism. And all the while it deals with abandonment and loyalty. It's a fierce, fierce read.
Do you like ponies?
All right, welcome back, guys. I have this cheapo drill because our good drill actually died last year. I had a killer drill that just totally died, which I should look on, like I got a good deal on Goodwill on guitars. Maybe they have drills for cheap. But anyhow, so we're going to find, I have these micro drill bits that I got a long time ago for when I had to install like locking tuners on like an electric guitar. So they're pretty cool. And I think we're probably talking about a 1/16 of an inch. And you'll notice tape on them. So what you do is like you measure the length of the screw, right? So, and then you tape it so that you don't end up drilling in further in the wood. And it just kind of primes the hole for the screw. So let's make sure that this is a 1/16 of an inch. Let's make sure that's the right size. So I'm gonna grab one of these here screws. I'm gonna take a peek. Yeah, that's about that's like a perfect. You can kind of see it's like a perfect fit for like that size of screw. So we're going to go with a 1/16 of an inch drill, and then I need to remove the tape from my previous jobs working on guitars. So we're going to remove this, and I'm going to grab a piece of masking tape. Here we go. I think actually when I did that last one, it wasn't even masking tape. It was it was probably like artist tape. Okay. So the mark I want to look at is we don't want this going in further than the screw, and probably a little bit shorter than the screw. So we'll do about there. So what I'm going to do is basically like note that that's how far I can go into the wood, kind of roll it. Voila, there's our stopping point, right? So I got my drill bit with a stopping point at 1/16 of an inch. Inserting it into the screwdriver. Cool. So now we got it. Cool. Now we want to put the speed up quite a bit. Crap. Did I just run out of charge? Okay. Hopefully I don't run out of charge mid-drill. That'd be awful. And it's like, we're going to have the battery charging video. Okay. Like I said, our good drill died pretty recently. So, okay. This is going to be interesting, but we're going to get in there and do it. So, I'm going to start with the hardest end and try to just go straight down. Great. Okay, now we're going to do our other end here. Oh, come on. It actually did run out of charge. Okay, I have to go get the battery pack for this. Or the cable. Okay, so I'm not going to make you guys sit through another commercial. So we got the cable. Hopefully this makes it work. Again, this was supposed to be like a quick little thing. Oh, come on. It's not reaching. Do I have to get an extension cord? I probably do. All right, I'll be right back. Voila, extension cord. Okay. Okay, let's see if this works. Perfect. We have power. We have the power. Okay. Oh, come on. I'm getting like little spurts of power on this thing. We did it. We fought the law and the law won. Okay. Well, we won. We fought the law and we won. Okay. So I'm going to start with this kind of weird end here. That's going to have to be at a slight angle. Luckily, we pre-drilled it, so it should go in real easy till those last few twists. And this is where I got to put leverage on it. I really want that sitting flush. And what's great about this is this will give the this will give a little more time to charge for the next thing. For the next side, the second side. And again, like pre-drilling the holes is great because look how easy that goes in without splitting the wood. And now we're going to go in and tighten all the screws. Just because you want this nice and tight. Not threaded, but tight, you know. This one's going to require a couple little pushes, and I don't want to thread it. There we go. Just on a kind of weird tilt, so it's going to require a little pressure because it's kind of bending the metal. I think that can go one more twist on that last part. Oh, that's the wrong thing to twist. Okay. And let's do just a little bit. Yeah, look at that. Now we're talking. So let me show you the result. Look at that beautiful business right there. You know? It's kind of lovely. You see it in the light? It's pretty beautiful. We did a good job on that one. So now we need the other one. Whew. Slowly but surely, and don't call me Shirley. If Frank Salazar was in the chats, he'd be all about that joke. Okay. Whew. One last one to go. So again, this one's a little awkward, this one on this end. But it just has to be, like I have to kind of hold it on both ends. I love it. And then this one's pretty direct. And I love that tape trick. I learned that a long time ago because that tape trick just avoids the error of blowing through the wood. I think that's one of the best little tricks because once you hit that little spot, once I hit there, it's like I know. So now we're going to just put in these screws and we'll call it a day for our tonight's little working on sorry if I'm sounding distant too. I keep forgetting the mic's right here. So that'll do it for tonight's guitar modification on this project. And then obviously make sure you're subscribed if you're curious to kind of see how this thing comes out. I'm excited. I put a little bit of varnish on the inside here, even though it's a little bit of bare wood, which is kind of the style. When I was cleaning it up. Okay, I'm going to leave that loose because I just remembered I should do the end first, because the end's going to have that bending. And again, pre-drilling the hole, it's just like super easy. It goes in easy peasy. Now we'll do this end. And I never like doing these with screwdrivers because you can very easily thread the screw or like really damage your headstock on your guitar. It's kind of one of those things where it's kind of meant to be hand done, which is tough on the hands, especially for an illustrator, you know? Because I have really weak wrists when it comes to, you know, grip, because I've played guitar and drawn for so long. And here we go. This is the one that's going to need the extra little turn. We just need short bursts, short moves. Don't go too fast. And I think that's pretty flush. So now we have completed that part of the job. So I'm going to go ahead and put these old ones back in here. Pow. Seal that up. You know what? I'm going to keep the, there's an extra little screw. Doesn't hurt to have, just in case I need it. So I'm going to keep that in here. Put that in my box of goodies for guitar stuff. I will, you know, put the screw, now that we're done with this. Take this out. Don't have to take the tape off yet. I'm going to go ahead and put the screw in my little screwdrivers of goodness. Or not screwdriver, my drills of goodness. My micro drills. And then I'll put that back in my little guitar case of goodness. And mini screwdriver. Pretty basic tools. Tape. That was basically all we needed. And now I can kind of get the screwdriver back for use, daily use. And then we'll take a look at the final result, which I'm pretty pleased with. I know it's tiny. It's just tuning, you know, tuning pegs. But it's one step closer to taking a guitar that was a $6 guitar and really making it beautiful. So let's move this back. We'll move this back. So you guys are going to go back a bit. And this is trash now. And we'll take a look. Beautiful tuning pegs that will eventually match the brand new brass frets that we'll have on this. And they look real nice and like kind of cool and pretty, ornamental. Function well, you know, tuning, they turn pretty smoothly. I'll probably oil them up once you know, oil the cogs, but I really like I like the swirly kind of nature of these two. So they look like almost like pearl, which is kind of neat. So we're one step closer to taking this old, ancient $6, you know, classical guitar that has a wonderful neck. Look at this neck. It actually slims as it gets closer to the back, which is like a high quality instrument kind of thing. If you look at it, it's thinner here than it is up here, which is kind of perfect for high fretwork, which is really cool, especially on a classical guitar, which I'm not used to. So those classical strings will be much wider, stuff like that. But that's step one. I'm going to go ahead and put this away, and then we're going to work on comics. Let's just give you guys one last look at the beauty of what we just did. And I will say at this point, we're about $26 into this guitar. So not bad so far. Okay. What else? Put all this stuff away. I should play another trailer for you guys. While I get everything in the kitchen kind of shut down, get everything set up on the art files, which are already pulled up. But I feel like it'll bore you guys to, well, you let me know. What did you guys think of that? Do you want to see the rest of the phase of this guitar get fixed up? I think it'll be fun. I hope you guys think it'll be fun too. Let me know in the chat. Yeah, Thomas was saying with all that brass, it'll have a steampunk look. The only thing I'm a little bummed about, and again, if somebody knows guitar work well, let me know. But I feel like I'm not quite at the level where I can do pearl inlays on the neck. That feels a little above my pay grade, like routing and putting in pearl inlays. So the sad thing about this is, this vintage guitar, they had it like screen printed with this like medieval cross, which is really cool as the fret markers, even though they're off center and stuff. Those are all going to disappear once I do the fretboard, because I have to sand and refinish this fretboard so that it's nice and even, because it is a little uneven. And it does bum me out a bit that it's not going to have the fret markers, because that is really unusual on a classical guitar. But I think the cost is worth it. So let me know what you guys think. Anyhow, like I said, these frets are just torched, and so it needs new frets real bad. Thomas was saying, can't you create a custom screen and reapply the fret markers? That is possible. I just would have to really look into it, because I don't have a screen printing setup, but that is a small enough screen to where I could just get like a little made at home kit and make that happen. Yeah. And then some person said, take a picture of those stars. You could use them later when you're ready. Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe we'll do that. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys think, whether you think this is interesting, fascinating. I'll give you a nice, lovely view of what we just added. Might even take a picture for Instagram tonight, because I've been showing the phases of this guitar as it's being upgraded, because it's a little hobby project, Okay. Close this all up. Okay, so thanks, you guys. That's going to do it for this part. Now we're going to get into coloring comics, which is pretty much what this channel's always been about. So there's another little money shot for you. Those beautiful new tuners. I'll be right back. I'm going to play something while we get set up.
Hi, my name is Phil Chandler. I'm a freelance artist, illustrator, and cartoonist. Today, though, however, I want to tell you about a graphic novel I picked up recently called Jacob's Apartment. This book was both written and beautifully illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It is the story of a doomed romance that causes the main character to question his beliefs and his faith, while he's also going through other tragedies in his life. Every page has been illustrated by hand and digitally colored with painstaking detail. It is an emotional story that causes you to think and even question things in your own life. And while the story is a tragedy, it is one that I was completely entertained by and I highly recommend. You can currently find this on Amazon or even check in with your local bookstore and see if you can order it. And while you're at it, you can also check out my Instagram at Phil Chandler Arts and also my YouTube channel by the same name, Phil Chandler Arts. And go buy Jacob's Apartment.
Hi, my name's Chris and I like comics. I want to talk about this comic for a second here. I just got this in. I ordered it direct from my local comic shop through Diamond Distributing. It's Joshua Kemble's Jacob's Apartment. I really enjoyed this book. There's all kinds of comics out there, let's be honest. There's fun comics, there's superhero comics, there's young adult comics, there's adventure comics for kids. There's so many different things on the planet. But there's also an entire subgenre of alternative books. Real life, real world depictions in comic book form. Situations that happen to each and every one of us. And this is a fine example of that. If you get a chance, order this book from your local comic shop. You won't be disappointed. I can't sing its praises high enough. Okay? Check it out. Jacob's Apartment by Joshua Kemble.
All right, and there's like 2 more things to set up and then we'll be ready to go. So here is let's do Wordzoid.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm gonna have to go with Karen Carpenter.
Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm gonna go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon? Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won.
Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish.
I was told I was gonna get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
All right, I love that. So we're back to our regular setup from my little kitchen area. There's a couple things still kind of around. My, guitar I'm working on, as you can see, is back there. And what we're going to work on now is coloring comic books, which is kind of one of the things we've done in this show forever. Some person said all you need to do is dip it in glitter. I love that. Okay, so let's get to the real meat of the stuff. So here is page, let's see here. What page number are we on? Page 97 of Not Death But Love, the Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I need to condense these layers a lot. I have my borders, I have my lines, and then I have just a million rendering layers, as well as my rough. So we can get rid of the rough, which is nice. I'll show you what the rough looked like, because I don't think I worked on this one on stream. So that was the rough we went from. So we're going to go ahead and delete that rough. And then I'm going to just condense down these layers, and then we're going to get into coloring. How are you guys doing? It's been a while since I've streamed. I hope that was interesting for you guys. Working on guitars is something I really enjoy. So I like sharing. You know what's weird? I think that might be almost like the thesis for my channel. I like sharing with you guys stuff that I enjoy, you know? If you're hearing noises in the background, it is 2 giant fish tanks. So you're going to hear the nice, beautiful stream of water in the background. Hopefully you find that relaxing if you can hear it. I don't know. Let me know in the chats if you guys can hear the beautiful streams of water. We have awesome fish. They're insane. We have a giant fish tank. Right now we have it covered, so it's actually right back here behind the mic. I'll move it. Anyhow, but we have it covered because we cover them at night because my wife is a complete sweetheart, and she likes to let the fish sleep at night, which I think is really thoughtful and nice. Okay, guys. This is our last version of this. So what? This is the last page. This is page 96. So what we're gonna do is, it's the same scene. We're gonna be pulling a lot of the colors from here, and then inputting them onto the newer page. So the way I'm gonna start here is, the nice thing is I learned this lesson early on when working in this style. What we're gonna do is we're going to select the inside of these panels. So that took like a good hour and a half. I thought that was going to take about a half an hour. And I think the drilling the holes kind of set the stage. Select, modify, expand. So I'm going to expand my selection by like 3 pixels. So it's like nice and in the middle. I'm going to actually go select inverse, because I was working on these today, and I noticed there's, if you look here, there's some like overlap of my my shading that didn't get cleaned up properly. So this should do it. Just delete it out. Bagoom. Okay. That's the official sound effect of when I'm working on comics. So now what we're going to do is we're going to lock that. I'm going to widen this so you guys get a better view. And we're going to fill this whole area that we have selected with white. Shift F5, foreground color. So now if I turn off the background layer, because I filled that area with white, you'll see it. I'm going to go ahead and save and then zoom in so you guys can see. So the checkerboard stuff is like with my background off. And I'll show you without like what we just filled. So you can kind of see where the white is. This is beautiful because this gives me a flat selection to work from as I start flat coloring. And I find that when you're flat coloring, like working from big to small areas really saves you a lot of time. There's one downside of this, which is I didn't select the areas that have the word balloons. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And we'll put that on a different layer, which we will then merge later on. But for now, I'm just going to, basically fill that layer with white. And it doesn't need to be exact. It just needs to be inside of the panel borders. And now we can go to work. So we're going to save. I'll call this layer flats, and I will title the layer below it. Some person, you got to explain what you meant by all you need is to dip it in glitter. Are you talking about the guitar? Or are you talking about the fret markers? Because the only problem with that is like whatever I use on the fretboard, like I might look into doing inlays because I think it might be cool to have pearl inlays, but that's just so above my pay grade, I think. From looking at it, like sanding, like removing frets and refretting and even reworking a fretboard aren't that bad. But I think routing for like to perfectly put in like a very small pre-cut like ivory or whatever it is you're using, like pearl, whatever, um even if it's acrylic, like just an inlay dot, I think that's like a level of woodworking I may not be ready for. But then again, I didn't think refretting would be possible. I also may not have the tools for that, and the tools for that particular process I think are a little more expensive than everything else, which is like sanding bars, sanding blocks, like fret files, stuff like that. Thomas said lots of razor work, I would assume. I think it's mostly done with a router, or you do a drill that has like it's like a rounded end, so it drills in and does like a flat end. But generally, it's like a drill press because it needs to stop at like an exact measurement. Because if you go too far, then you'll have your inlay dots. I could probably do side inlays pretty easily though, because those are just a regular drill, and then you kind of insert this like plastic tubing. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But I think most of the inlay dots, at least the dots, like now, if you start getting into other stuff like the squares or like the patterns, it's just like that's like woodworkers work, and I don't know if I'm quite there. But it might be fun. There's one way to learn, and that would be experiment on a $6 guitar, right? Which is now a $20 guitar. Okay, so, and honestly, I think the value of that guitar is better than $6 because, like, when I got it in the mail, I was like, oh, I was worried it was going to be awful, but when I got it in the mail, I'm like, oh, the wood here is good. Even the setup and stuff isn't too bad, so it's like it's just improving an instrument that was already okay, but needed some serious work. But the structure's there of a good guitar. Now, if I could get a friend who does like woodworking to come over and show me how to do inlay dots, then maybe that'll happen. Okay, let's do this. So we'll start with we're just going to do one panel at a time. And tonight, because I want to work a lot tomorrow, so we may not get through the whole thing. We'll see. But right now, what I want to do is deselect all the areas of white. So like things like the eyes in one panel. We're not going to do all the panels. Sometimes I'll work and kind of deselect the color in every single one. Thomas said, I would think they have beginner kits for putting in simple inlays. They have, I mean, you can buy the pre-cut inlays, but the installation of it to do it properly is really complicated. They have like inlay stickers, but like you got to realize like your hands are like rubbing on a fret board a bunch. So all you're going to end up with is just like these dirty, weird stickers that keep coming off or messing up your playing. And that's another thing to keep in mind too. Like if I match what this guitar did, and I screen print because I think those are screen printed, the inlays, I have to be really cautious about the ink that I'm screening with, because I'm going to be rubbing it a lot, and I don't want to basically just put myself in a position where I'm like putting paint all over my fingers every time I play a guitar. And again, like then have to like refinish the neck again. But the thing I'm thinking is like traditionally, let's take a look at the okay, good. Yeah, that was white. That's good. Yeah, traditionally, like classical guitars don't really have inlay markers anyway, like even on the sides. And so, for it to be like a real classical guitar, it probably technically shouldn't have those. But since I'm customizing it and I'm coming from the world of electric and steel string, you know, man, it would be helpful to have those dots. Because I don't know, I'm no like shreddy guitarist, so I don't know my neck well enough to work that out. But anyhow, Thomas was saying, if you screen print, can you put a varnish over it, or would that change the sound and feel? Generally, with rosewood, you don't want to varnish over it. You varnish the sides of the neck and the back of the neck, but the neck itself, if it's rosewood, you usually just leave it very, very well sanded, but you don't want to put like varnish over it because that does affect the tone. And like part of why you have a rosewood neck is for a little bit of the tone wood nature of it. Whereas with like other necks, you know, like if it's like a maple neck or something like that, like you can do, you know, you can just do varnish and it's good. Although technically you don't want to over varnish the back of a neck. And if you do, you want to do like a matte varnish. Or if you have a really varnished neck, you just hope that you'll play it in. Because if it's too glossy on the back of a neck, one of the reasons a lot of people like kind of like matte finish, at least the back of necks, or if you look at like crazy killer guitarists' guitars and you see the back of the neck and it's like sanded, it's like a discolored because they sanded it. That's because if it's too glossy, your hand can stick when you're sliding on the guitar and it can kind of like screw up your playing. So like a nice matte finish neck on the back is important too. Although I have some gloss finished necks that don't bug me. But thinking about it, like most of the necks that I have are not glossy finished. Save my, I think my SG has a glossy finish, which I'll show. I haven't, we kind of skipped my little thing that I was doing because I was going through all my guitars for you guys on the channel, like going through them. And we stopped, I think the last one we stopped on was my Telecaster. So I think that's like guitar number 8. So we have quite a few guitars to go in my ghetto collection of guitars, which I love. Okay. So again, I'm going through here and selecting everything that's white and kind of deselecting that. So I'm looking again to see like, okay, what's white in here? Because I want the colors to be consistent. Time of day is the same. Things haven't changed too much. So I don't know if you guys caught Artcasters yesterday, but it was a great episode. It was really flattering to have. We just get some really cool guests on that show. And this last guest was really cool. Jay Stevens, who's like a killer cartoonist. And it's funny, he actually did some issues of Teen Titans that my son was a really big fan of. And I hadn't really connected him with that until like the day before we interviewed him. I was looking through his portfolio and his writing credits, and I was like, holy crap, I think he wrote and illustrated some of those issues. And that gave me a geeky feeling because it's one thing if I'm a fan, you know, of somebody's work, but if it's like something my son is really into, I just felt really stoked to be able to talk to somebody who brought joy to my kid, you know. And not just that, like killer illustrator, really amazing, just retro, like beautiful style, you know, and had a lot of great tips on cartooning and stuff like that. It was just a really good episode of Artcasters last night. And really put me back in streaming mode, you know. But I also was just like, again, it's funny. I was just going to work on that guitar without streaming. And then I was like, wait a minute, I haven't hung out with my live stream audience in a long time. And I bet, you know, a couple of them would want to see this, you know, and kind of follow along on the weird process that I've been putting into these guitars. Cause I was a little bummed with the that I wasn't recording or providing any content with the other than like maybe some pictures on Instagram with the Yamaha, because I'm really proud of that. It was like my first time ever refretting a guitar and sanding a nut. Like I had never replaced the nut of a guitar, and it wasn't crazy easy, but it's like surprisingly easier than I thought because I did research and stuff on it. And it was kind of like when you try something in art and you're like, okay, that was hard, but that wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And then there's things you would think are easy and they're a lot harder than you would think it would be. But it went pretty smooth. So hopefully this one goes as smooth. It'd be funny if this one that I'm live streaming, that'll be the one that when I'm pulling out the frets, like it just rips apart the neck of the guitar, and I'm like, well, there we go. But yeah, I think if I follow the same process, it should go pretty smoothly. I'm also like, here's another thing I'm torn about. If you guys want to talk about other stuff than guitars too, let me know. Right now, all we're doing is deselecting the white on this panel. But while I'm thinking about it, it's interesting because what was I gonna say? Oh, I just lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something really cool. I guess I was gonna say the thing that's been really interesting with the whole, doing that thing is it is really equivalent to a lot of art processes, where you can try to take something on, and a lot of it's just doing your research, really being prepared, having the right tools, and then just practice and time. That's the other thing. I think that was the super secret, because a lot of people blow their first time doing a fret job because they will speed through it and not realize that it's a process, and that it's a time consuming process. I don't know. But I also kind of think, I don't know. I can't explain it, but like there is something really cool about learning something you're a little uncomfortable with, of something that you're interested in, and like to me, I didn't quite realize how much interest I had in working on guitars and stuff until out of necessity, I had to work on some guitars. I had some old Squires that were kind of out of commission, or like the intonation was like just torched. And so they needed some work. And that work was going to either cost me a fortune that I couldn't afford, or I would figure out how to do it myself and save myself some money. So I'm sure it's like equivalent to like working on a car or something like that, except I've always been a person who never really was good at working on cars or anything like that. But yeah, it can be really fun. What was I going to say regarding... Oh, I was about to start deselecting from the other panels, but we're just going to do this a panel at a time, because I want to get as much of this flatted as possible. But from what it's looking like, given the time, I might just honestly end up getting one panel done, and then we might have to do the rest of this tomorrow. But we'll see. We'll see. But anyhow, so I kind of feel like it was important to do the first one by myself, because I think I might have botched it, and I think I needed to gain confidence that I could do it. Because I think if I had done that and been live streaming, I think I would have been terrified of ruining a really beautiful instrument, Philip said, I thought I'd send a quick hello before bed. Hi, Philip. How you doing, buddy? I hope you checked out the Jay Stevens conversation. He's in Canada. He's Canadian, really talented Canadian cartoonist. I think he might have known who Christopher is, which is kind of neat. Yeah, but it was a really good episode. And I think he uses like Quebec a lot in his comics. Like he references like specific buildings and history and stuff. Philip said, "Was this a video?" Yeah, it was Artcasters on Scott's channel last night, and we had Jay Stevens as a guest. You'd really dig his stuff too, Philip. It's like he is really influenced by like early Gold Key stuff, and he's doing a comic series for Gold Key now. But his style is really cool, and I think Philip, you'd really appreciate it because you're a solid cartoonist, you know, and animation background. I think you'd really like look at his stuff and go, man, he's pretty killer. Very, very exciting work. And it's interesting because he does like a very retro style, like the kids comics that Gold Key used to put out, you know. And yet like a lot of his subject matter is like super dark and twisted, and so it's really it's like a neat juxtaposition. But even the stuff he's done for like Teen Titans and stuff like that, it's like there's a darkness to it, like in a good way. It's he just pushes the line a little bit and in a fun way. Yeah. Philip said, "I've been really sick the past couple of weeks." I'm sorry, Philip. I hope it's just like a cold or something. My son's had a horrible cold. And a lot of people, you know, I think my sister got sick. My wife got sick for a little bit. I still haven't gotten the full end of it, but that's part of why I don't want to push it too much tonight. Like I might call it when I'm done with this panel, because I don't want to get sick. But yeah, it was an inspiring, fun conversation. Oh, bad case of the flu. Oh, I'm sorry, Philip. I feel like you can't catch a break, my dude. Philip Chandler too. If you guys haven't followed his channel, you should. He's a very inspiring guy. I show like a little caricature at the beginning of my streams, and that was Philip's art. He very kindly did a beautiful caricature that I found really cool, and I felt like he really captured my likeness, including my crazy hair, because my hair wants to be an afro. It just always does. It you know, I don't know what it is. Even right now, I gotta like trim the sides of this because it's starting to go out. I could always like try to be like the Bob Ross of comics. Maybe just let it be what it wants to be. Philip said, "I remember doing that because I couldn't resist drawing the hair." Well, it's a great character. It's good. But anyhow, yeah, so I use that in my intros, but that's how good Philip is. He's just like killer. And what's interesting is, correct me if I'm wrong, Philip, I don't think he took an incredibly long time on that either. I think that was a fairly quick caricature because like Philip's been doing caricature work for like years. Yeah, it's been an interesting, few weeks. I've been doing a lot of work off stream, and pushing along on the comic and stuff like that. I had some freelance work that came up that I'm doing for a company that does books about like coding and stuff like that. So that has occupied a little bit of my time and been stuff I can't stream. But yeah, it's been an interesting. Yeah, I don't know if this is understandable, but it's like I do feel a little bit behind the. I don't know if it's called behind the eight ball when you're like just a little bit buried. I have like too much stuff to do, which I'm sure I'm joining the club. But it's been one of those. Like I'm getting stuff done and being productive, but it feels like there's a pile of things that I need to accomplish. But I also think it's important to do things like even that guitar project where it's like, it's not about money. It's not about a book. It's just fun. It's like that to me is just fun, and it does have a utility, but most of it is fun. Yeah, Philip said it was just a gesture. I think maybe all of 10 to 15 minutes. So that's how good Philip is. But what's great is, he's a seasoned caricature artist. So like a 10 to 15, like that quote comes to play, and I think a lot of us can say that about art, but it's like, yeah, it took 10 to 15 minutes, but it took, a lifetime of drawing to be able to do that in 10 to 15 minutes. And I also like it because it's not a template caricature. There's some caricatures that are like very much like, okay, here's my caricature book, and I'm going to pull these lips and this mouth and these eyes, and it's very like cut and paste. And that's not at all what that looked like. That looks like a very quick, accurate caricature, where it's exaggerated, but it's very much, I don't know, your own voice. And I like that about Philip's work a lot. Also, Philip's a just killer cartoonist. Philip, I got to stop talking nicely about you because it sounds like I'm just blowing smoke at this point. But anyhow, it's good to talk to you again, man. We've got our sky. I'll go ahead and flat the sky too while I'm at it. Might as well. Have you guys ever listened to Al Green? I absolutely love Al Green. And there's a song where he goes, might as well. And I love it. Yeah, so it's been wild, man. There's been some weird stuff locally. There was I don't know if I guess I could tell this story. It's in the news, There's a like a school here had to shut down because a grocery store not too far from us had been open during the day, and like there's a Chevron across from it. So you got like it's like an Albertsons and a Chevron, right? They're right across from each other. And apparently a person with a machete, not a machete, I'm sorry. Let me correct that. This is in the news too. 2 machetes, drugged out of his mind, went into the Chevron and was just going at people, threatening to like carve them up with like 2 machetes. And so the store owner luckily wasn't attacked or anything, but he was like threatened with like by this guy, this wacko guy with like 2 machetes, just walking in public. I think he's like shirtless too. And drugged out of his mind, going to like this Chevron, kind of threatening the guy who's working at the register. The guy who's working at the register quickly calls the police, and then escapes getting attacked. He gets really close to getting attacked. And then the guy proceeds to walk across the street and go into a grocery store, and just start threatening customers and going at them and like chasing them around with like 2 machetes. So the cops arrive, and he starts charging the police, and they tase him, and he doesn't go down, and it just like ends up being this whole thing. Meanwhile, like the schools nearby all went on lockdown. If I'm laughing, it's not like I'm laughing because it's funny. It's just surreal. And because this guy was kind of on the run for a bit from the cops and like running through this grocery store, like just threatening people with machetes and like just going on a rampage, and clearly like kind of drugged out of his mind because they kept tasing him and just like he's still going. And so they finally had to shoot him, and like it terrified the kids at that school. And that was kind of lame. Yeah, because that was my son's school, so it was a little scary. They went on lockdown, and yeah, and it wasn't too far, so it's like, yeah. Anyhow, so that was interesting. So that reminds me that the Antelope Valley it's sometimes living in California is amazing, and sometimes the AV is just like great. It's a fantastic place to live. And then there's weird stuff like that occasionally happens where you're like, yeah, okay. so it can be great. And I feel like that kind of thing has to almost happen to remain in the news so that people who consider moving up here will be like, isn't that the place that, a wild man with 2 machetes like threatened? Like, this is a weird valley. That's all I'm saying. It's a mixed bag. I love it here, but that was a weird one. Anyhow, thought that might be an interesting story to tell. So that happened. Yeah. So let's see. Anything else that was exciting that's happened since I last talked to you guys? Okay, we're already getting in the background, and I kind of think I need to get back to the characters because I'm going to work my way out better. So what we're going to do now is get our kid. So let's start with the kid's hair. And we'll just kind of hit that. Boom. Like this. And then we're going to deselect his hair. And then we'll work our way through. So we'll at minimum, I think because the guitar ended up taking about a half an hour longer than I thought it would. The part that I was going to do. And by the way, I have a rule. I don't know if I've told you guys this. Oh, Thomas said all that rain in California is messing us up. It was nuts, dude. It was crazy. I mean, we're safe, but it's like I think even my house took a little bit of a beating. And we're in like the desert, so like I think people like further, towards like the ocean and stuff. Yeah, that was crazy, man. There were times where I was driving to work and I felt like I was boating, I mean, it's not like that anymore, but man, that was a wild few days. Particularly just driving to work where it was like, yeah, there's some times where I'm like driving through water and I'm like, is this going to just wash me off the road? Like it was a little wild. Yeah, that was quite the storm. Let's see here. Oh, so anyhow, I was gonna say I have this rule, and I've talked about this a little bit, but I'll talk about it a little more. Where I feel like in order to keep myself working on comics, I have this rule where I don't earn the right to call myself a cartoonist And this is just my own personal rule, unless I've worked on comics for the day. And so if I don't work on comics for a day, it's a great day, but I can't call myself a cartoonist. That's my rule. And I got it from the War of Art, because the War of Art, he posits in it, I think it's Stephen Pressfield, and I know I've quoted the heck out of it. A lot of people have, and it's partially because it's a really brilliant book. But Pressfield says, you shouldn't call yourself a writer unless you wrote. And like, if you didn't write today, cool, you had a good day, but you're not a writer. you earn every day by like sitting down and writing and working on writing. You earn the right to call yourself a writer. And if you didn't write today and you wrote in the past and maybe published books, great, you were a writer. Good for you. And he doesn't say that to like try to discourage people from writing or making stuff. It's just like an impetus to like sit down and do the work. I have that. So today I can't call myself a cartoonist even prior to this stream, because like 80% of this page I did today. So that's part of why I felt okay, goofing off and working on a guitar. But I thought I could get some done on this tonight without completely burning myself out for the weekend. So that's what we're doing. But yeah, so just kind of explaining, if I hadn't, I don't know if I would have taken that time to do the thing. Do the thing I wanted to do. Okay, we are really close. Should I do the color hold too, or just wait till the end? I think I should wait till the end to do the color hold on the sky, because that looks really cool, but that'll be much more effective. I think last time I did it panel by panel. It is fun to do panel by panel, though. But I think it'll be better to do it all in one go. Color hold will be like when I'll show you guys. So on the sky here, how like the dark, parts are like blue, and then here how the clouds, like the shading is like pink, and then again like over here the color is color held. I will do that eventually to this background, but I don't think we're going to do that till we're done with all of the shading everywhere. So we'll just go to our flats here, turn off my color holds, and then we'll just continue to grab colors. I think I have some of those. Thomas said, we got some here in Vegas. Not bad, though. Thank goodness. Yeah. How is Vegas right now? How are you guys doing? I feel like it's been a really interesting... It's been an interesting few months. Like news-wise, everything. Thomas said it's been crazy. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it, but I feel like there is kind of like a weird vibes. Like there's weird vibes in the air lately. Oh, Thomas said avoiding the strip because of the Super Bowl. I forgot. This is funny to me. Well, maybe it's not, but I don't judge people who watch the Super Bowl, but I totally do not watch the Super Bowl. I don't do the Super Bowl. I didn't even know the Super Bowl was this weekend. I think the guy I play music with was like, "Oh, can we?" Because we usually, do music on Sundays, and he was like, we got to do another day, like either Monday or Saturday because of the Super Bowl. I'm gonna watch it. And I was like, "Oh man, that's tough for me," because like I kind of get it. I get it. It's fun to like have pizza and like watch a game or whatever, but I can't get into the sports. I've never been into the sports. It's a strange thing. Nothing wrong with sports. I just don't do sports. Okay, so but yeah, I can't even imagine how crazy the Super Bowl would be. You know how bad I am with sports stuff. I don't even know who's playing or where they're playing. Are they playing in Vegas, or is that just a thing where it's like packed because of Super Bowl weekend? Fill me in on like anything having to do with tomorrow, because I have no idea. Like, and again, it's not like even out of disdain or something. I just like I totally do not know. Thomas said I used to only watch the Super Bowl because of the commercial. Oh, Thomas was saying it is in Las Vegas. Okay, well that would that would be wow. That's crazy. I will say, like I've gone to Super Bowl parties and stuff in the past sometimes, and it can be fun, and you can kind of get into like root for the team, but again, like I think it's just like it's like the last thing on my radar. Okay, that's crazy though. That's got to be like wild traffic. And then I'm sure there's going to be like a lot of people like drinking and driving tomorrow. Drink the paint water. How's it going, buddy? It's a friend of the Artcasters. He said, my BFF and I reserve the Super Bowl to grill steaks and drink high-end cocktails. Normally, it's cold as balls here in Wisconsin, but this time it'll be in the 30s. Okay, that's what I can get into about the Super Bowl. Like the game itself, and I can see like especially if you follow sports and stuff, that's a big deal, But what I could totally get into is like barbecuing, having some drinks, hanging out. I mean, that's fun. And again, I can kind of see if you follow it a lot why it would be fun. It's just like for me, I didn't even know where it was. Because again, I just don't sports. I'm not against it. I just don't do it. Thomas said, I was working near a small airport today. The number of private jets flying in was incredible. That's got to be wild. This is a weird thing. I'm not a like crazy wealthy guy. I'm not like I would say I'm fortunate, but I'm not loaded. Okay, like by any means. And I feel lucky to have what I have, but it's like I'm not loaded. I saw a thing recently where somebody went flying and they mentioned the cost to just rent a plane to fly, and then the fuel. And I was like, that is a different world. It's a different world. There's a different world of wealth, where it's like, because there's people who like own a private plane, and then you think about it, it's like owning a boat. Like if you own a boat, you don't just pay for the boat, right? You have to store the boat somewhere. So you either have to like build a hangar for your like plane, or you have to like rent the space. And so you're paying to just have it sit. And then the cost to fly it is, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm being like an old man who's just ranting about stuff, but it's like the cost to fly a plane, like the fuel, all of it. Holy crap. Like to be able to have the resources to just kind of shoot money down a funnel like that is nuts. But again, like it would be cool, like if you were wealthy enough, because here's the weird thing about a private plane or something is like you could just take off for the weekend without buying tickets and just be in a different country like quickly, or just travel to a different state without like a bunch of issues. But it is one of those weird, wow, how the other half lives kind of moments. It's like, man, there's some people out there who like literally, and I knew I had one friend in high school because where I went to high school was out in the middle of nowhere, you know? And so there were some people in a residential area in that area that had their own hangars. Like, so they had like regular kind of middle class houses and stuff. And then they had hangars in the back of the, like airplane hangars in like their backyards because it's like a desert area. And so, and there was like a very tiny little runway. And so it's like this little private community that all had like these little, you know, a lot of them are like these ancient planes and they had their own hangars. And so they just go to their backyard, you know, get in their plane, like put it on the hangar and just fly off. And like, so anyhow, I had a friend in high school whose like grandparents owned like a plane. And like, again, they weren't like super loaded, but they somehow owned a plane and had like lived in this area with the, you know, the plane hangars and stuff like that. And his grandparents would literally like be like, we're going to Mexico this weekend. They just fly to Mexico and it would take them like a couple hours or an hour. It's nuts. And they'd just be like, yeah, you know, I'm going to go to a different state. Like, no problem. It is a little wild, but yeah, the cost, man, the cost is, anyhow, sorry. I was rambling about the cost of a private plane, but that's nuts, man. Thomas was saying when I was young, the cost was high but not unreachable, but now it's really expensive. Yeah. And I do think maybe in that scenario where if you had your own hangar on your own property, like it might be less. But then I've even heard that like, so if you own a plane, this is another thing similar to a boat, you kind of have to be flying it like a lot. Because if you don't, it like has all sorts of failures. Like, anyhow. So I'm just saying, if you're out there and you're considering buying a plane, buy Jacob's apartment instead. You know, buy 2 stories instead. You'll thank yourself later. You don't have to pay to, you know, store that. And even if you do, your storage unit is going to be a lot less than, you know, fueling up for a flight. But it must be really fun to fly. I've never flown a plane. Thomas, have you flown? Do you know how to fly? I'd imagine in Vegas, there's probably guys who like, weirdly enough, I think about it, it is kind of a very desert thing. Because there are people in this area that have planes, you know, and I think it's partially because there's like an Air Force base out here. There's a lot of like, it's probably one of the most affordable places you could live to own, and if you wanted to own one. That's really interesting. Is there just like wild traffic like everywhere you go, Thomas? Like, Thomas said I did an introductory flight years ago, a little Cessna 152, lots of fun. Nice. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. You know, let's see here. The 15 is pretty crazy. I could see that. All right, let's see here. Let's get these roofs. The roof. Okay. Let's do it. There's like a domey thing. Okay, cool. We did do it as this color. It's good to know. So this background is going to slightly change. And drink the paint water. So we don't need no water. Thank you for getting my reference. There's so many times. I mean, you'll understand this, but it's like there are times where, man, I have aged out of any reference that people are going to get. like, I don't know. I've made references like that a lot recently where like kids will just look at me and be like, what? Like, what is this strange language you're speaking? Oh man, the other day I saw a kid wearing Jinko jeans. And I was like, that's cool, because like Jim Jimenez, who we've had on Artcasters, friend of the show and good friend of Scott Cirkland, was the art director for Jinko jeans, you know? So like back in the day. So I texted him and let him know. I was like, dude, you won't believe it. There's a kid who's like a huge Jinko jean fan, and he was like, oh, cool. But it's so wild that that's like a trend again. It's weird. It's just weird to consider, you know, like the cycle of things and stuff like that. But also very weird when you start aging out of references where it's like, yeah, you can do the roof is on fire, and people are like, what are you talking about? You're like, dude, come on. Our old memes are dying out, guys. Thomas said, I probably won't leave my neighborhood Sunday. Nice. Well, hopefully you like, do you enjoy the game though? Because if you enjoy the game, that'd be cool, you know? Okay. We have a couple things that I want to do here. One is I want to section off this area because I can kind of see better now. And I think that'll do it. I think that's it. So I want to section off this area and rock that darker green. Boom. And then I want to do... Actually, that might just do it. I think that'll do it. Okay, where are we at for time? We're almost at 12. I almost wonder if I should do one more panel. Thomas was saying, I'll probably get my haircut. Don't really watch football or TV for that matter. Yeah, I just haven't. Yeah, I think that might be it too. I don't really do television. Like, I'll do like streaming services and stuff, but that might be part of why. I don't know. Yeah, but it was, I think somebody mentioned that yesterday, and I kind of forgot it was even this weekend. Which for Americans is like a weird thing, you know? It's like missing a really big, like, you know, not knowing the election is today or something, you know, like, anyhow, let's play a trailer. And I think we can do, I think I can hang and do one more panel. Okay, so here we go. Let's see if there's a trailer I have not played yet. Yeah, let's do the Christmas trailer for Two Stories. So okay, what else? We're gonna finish. We're gonna do 2 panels, and then we'll call it a night. And I'll finish the rest next time. So I'm just gonna go ahead and close this guy out because we don't need it. Let the okay. What else? There was I had a revelation the other, not a revelation, but like again, this kind of ties into uh the whole thing that I was talking about with like not really being like a sports, like not doing sports stuff. There was a point in my life where I liked playing basketball a lot. I really enjoyed it. I had a hoop on like our garage. It was fun. Drink the Paint Water said It's a Wonderful Life is my FIL's favorite movie. What is FIL? I don't know what that means. Oh, your father-in-law. I'm guessing. Do you mean father-in-law? I'm revealing my boomerness. But anyhow, so the because I don't know. I think that's father-in-law. The lack of like sports knowledge goes to like a lot of stuff. Like I didn't exercise like most of my life until I hit like my mid 30s, and then I think I started exercising. And it's because growing up, like I just always associated it, and falsely, like I shouldn't have, but I always associated with like jocks and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm not like gonna do that. It just felt like at the time, it felt like I wouldn't even use this word anymore because I've gotten to know people better, broaden my mind more. I judge people less, but I used to think of it as like a meat-headed activity. Um, and then I start, as I got older, I started meeting so many people I admired that like had like pretty rigorous exercise routines, and I also started needing to exercise, and so I was like, this is interesting. But in that, there's like this whole world of stuff that I like never learned. Because when I was in high school and there was like a gym and stuff, like I didn't do gym, like I just ditched, or I like looked for, like I was not trying to be athletic in the slightest. And so I like missed out on a lot of core stuff, like how to properly lift, how to just a lot of like basic stuff, or there's stuff that I learned when I was younger that I like forgot, and had to learn the hard way. And I keep learning new things. So part of it was finding an exercise that works for me, and like realizing that I'm not a person who's going to like go to gyms. And honestly, because of my cartooning schedule and drawings and my kind of indoor homebody nature, realizing that I could actually do that from home and be more militant about it than I would if I got like a membership and then forgot about it and I had spent a bunch of money on something I'm not going to use. Whereas if I like bought, some decent equipment, like I could do it from home. And I know myself well enough to know, like, if I invest in that, I'm not going to just like leave some piece of exercise equipment in my garage, just like rusting away. Some people need the gym, right? Like they need that, almost like energy from other people, or like peer pressure from like other people to really do it, or maybe the change of location or scene or just the space or whatever. Anyhow, so that was a big one for me, but I learned a new thing the other day. And I had not heard of this, but I was like, so, okay, I'll tell you the first. I don't want to tell you what I learned yet. I want to explain some of the stupid things that I've learned that like to somebody who exercises would be like totally, like no brainers. So the first year where I had built like a really good workout, habit, was talking to a friend, and I was talking about how it just sucked because every time I worked out, like, there's like pain, and then like it just wouldn't go away for like a week. Like my muscles would just hurt for like a week. And they're like, yeah, the first few. And I'm like, no, like I'm like a year in where I've been doing this and so they were like, And this is after I had somebody like show me how to properly lift and stuff like that. Cause I made the first timer's mistake when I first started getting a routine of like lifting the heaviest thing I could, rather than doing reps of like something that you can handle, but the repetition of it and the way you're holding your muscle and stuff is a lot more important. Anyhow, so there's a lot of lame stuff that I learned that I should have known. But this one was like, a couple of years, well, now it's like more like a decade ago, but it's like, the friend that I was talking to was like, wait, are you like doing like protein shakes or like taking protein supplements, after you work out? Cause you're pretty thin. And like, so if you're just working out and like, putting strain on your muscles, and then you're not, basically like feeding them with protein, you're going to like be in pain, and you're not going to see a lot of gains. And I was like, So then I learned about like whey protein and having protein shakes after I work out, which has been a game changer. So that's been really cool. But anyhow, I had a similar moment the other day, and if you guys have done exercise and stuff, you'll crack up. Drink the paint water. Inform me it is father-in-law. That's good. Thanks, man. So I wasn't completely off base there. Anyhow, so yeah, like it was like a week or so ago at work, I was talking to some people who exercise and stuff like that. I was talking about like every time I do exercise, like even though I've like built a pretty decent habit of it, and I have it like a pretty good routine and stuff like that, it just is really hard for me to like sit down and do it, like, because I'm exhausted from the day, and I do it best at night, but it's like it's just getting up the energy and the steam to like do it is just a pain in the butt. And everyone I was talking to, there were like 4 people in it was like in the lunchroom. All of them almost like simultaneously were like, well, do you like do pre-workout? And I'm like, what? And suddenly they explained what pre-workout is. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. Like, I don't know any of this stuff. So anyhow, I've been using pre-workout for like a week or two, and it's been like a game changer, man. It's been really cool. I'm not trying to like endorse it or anything like that, but I felt like, kind of like I'm feeling with the guitar thing where, there's things I should know, or I didn't know, that like when I unlock them, I feel like I'm getting, like secrets of the universe revealed to me. And that was one of them where like the second I did it, I was like, okay, this is, it's like I have energy when I work out now. And like, it's not hard because it's like, I just take pre-workout and like 30 minutes later, I'm ready to go, like, and it's been just like so good for like getting back in the flow of exercise, and not so much back in the flow, but just like retaining it and doing a little further than I would every other day. So that's been really cool. But just tying into the whole not knowing much about sports thing, it's like that's kind of where I come from. It's like I didn't know what pre-workout is. I don't know any of this stuff, like and so it's been really interesting, like kind of learning some stuff that like I think guys who were like maybe more active or did more sports or stuff like that, might have been like, yeah, I mean, we know about. Like, I don't know. It was really interesting. Thomas said, I would rather play sports than watch most of the time. Yeah, I don't know. Sports can be fun. It can be fun to play games and do active stuff. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I think a big part of me is just like very, very much like a homebody. I like being at home and drawing. Um, like on a vacation. Like there's a 3-day weekend this weekend, and I am looking forward to catching up, doing art, hanging out with my family, and preferably like not going much of anywhere. Maybe going out for breakfast. Like um, I don't know, because breakfast I do look forward to. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's the weird cartoonist in me that likes to be, you know, in my zone doing this or like working on something weird, like restoring a guitar. Like, I don't know. I am excited about getting back to recording some stuff. I can say my friend and I have recorded about 7 songs now. Um, and uh, and then his brother, who was our drummer back when I was in high school, in one of my first bands, has moved back to California. And so we've been using like a drum machine to like track. This is like no saboteur stuff. And to track like some of the drums, we've been using like a drum machine or like just, simple percussive instruments. But we might actually have our drummer track live for those tracks, like once we have them all done. So we're thinking like 10 tracks, get the drummer on them, get them mixed and mastered, and get them out to you guys. But it's been really fun writing those songs. And there's one recently that we did with a banjo that I'm really excited to kind of share at some point. So that'll be cool. Thomas said, my new job has me outside doing testing and at construction sites, making a nice change from being inside doing factory work. Even thinking about going camping again. It's been over 10 years. Camping is really fun. And what's weird is I kind of can see how that could work, because I do think when I get in this zone of like not, going out or whatever, I get very homebody-ish. But all it takes is like 1 or 2 really nice trips. Or camping again is one of those things where it's like, man, I'm so reluctant to do it. But anytime I've done it, has been a really solid, good memory, So right now what we're doing is we're just flat coloring, getting that wild sky. And right now I am coloring a pipe. And we're getting closer to calling it a night. I am curious, especially, I think a lot of the people watching this stream have already shared, I think a lot of you guys kind of enjoyed the guitar thing. I'm curious for the people who might be watching this after the fact. Definitely make sure you guys leave a comment to let me know if you're curious to kind of see what the next thing is. I think particularly sharing the refretting process will be really exciting, because there's nothing cooler than just the whole way it's done. It's a really interesting thing. Thomas was saying just getting out of the city is nice, especially for someone like me who grew up in the country. Yeah, I kind of understand that too. I have definitely changed my view of like city versus country a lot. I grew up in the desert, and okay, cool. I fixed that. I was like, I hope I fixed those lines when I was shading. So I grew up in the desert, and I hated it growing up where I live now, and I hated it so much. Like, I just thought, oh, like I want to be in a city, like a big city, and then I lived in big cities, for most of my 20s and my early 30s. to the point where, and even different states and stuff, to where coming back like feels good. Like I really enjoy where I live. I like that there's not as much to do. Um, I don't know. I like the wide streets. I don't know. I like it a lot. So I kind of understand that because I think enjoying being like in a thriving city, which does have an energy to it and stuff like that. I don't know if I think for some people that might stay, but I think a lot of the time that's like a young man's game where it's like, um, the excitement of the city and stuff like that. It uh, it's great, but then it kind of gets old, and you start appreciating like different things, like quiet. The quiet is so nice. Um, my wife and I had lived in so many apartments before we were living now, where it's like I remember for like the first year, it's just so surreal being like quiet, like not hearing neighbors and racket and like, um, just like everybody around us doing their thing, like or listening to music or watching movies or whatever it is they're doing. You'd hear it through like the apartment walls. Like it's it took so long. It took a while to get used to that, but it's so nice. Like I like it. I like the quiet. I like even right now. It's like uh, you know quiet in my house, and that's pretty nice. Um, and you really I don't know if you're used to having that. You know, I don't know. It's like it's a luxury. I think a lot of people may not realize. Just the ability to like close your door and have silence. Like it's really beautiful. Or like again to hear like birds in the morning or just things like that. Thomas was saying, I agree. I live near the edge of Vegas, Henderson. It's nice and quiet. I don't think I could handle living deep in the city. Yeah, and I could when I was younger. Like when I was younger, I loved the city. Couldn't get enough of the city. I couldn't get away from, the country or like the edge of things like fast enough. Um yeah, so yeah. Anyhow, thanks to you guys for showing up and hanging out. It's fun to see the night gang. It's cool to see like a lot of people stopping by. Drink the paint water, man. I really appreciate you stopping by. Um, Thomas, I know we had Philip stop by earlier. Some person stopped by. I'm trying to remember who some person is because some person is someone I know. Because I know the person who goes by some person. Drink the paint water said it's cool to see how you work. Thanks, man. Yeah, this is a weird process. This one's the graphic novel about the Brownings, about Elizabeth Barrett and Robert Barrett Browning. And so the method of doing this is a little bit different than some of my other stuff. Namely, like I usually work traditionally. I work digitally sometimes, but even the process of this has been really different. But I like it, and now that I'm like 97 pages into it, I feel like okay, I've got this process down. But I like the result because it kind of creates this like weird Victorian era. Um, I don't know. It's hard to explain. But it's also fun because a lot of the renderings on just the black layer, which I'm not used to. Because like either I would have like cross hatching, um, with a solid black or like rendered color. So it's been a real like experiment, like working on this. Um, Thomas said the guitar thing was cool, so simple and complex at the same time. Nice. Yeah, that was probably the easiest part of everything. And then it will get a little more wild from there. The refretting process, I'm really I don't know, I'm stoked about, because that is way simpler than I thought it would be, but it's also super tense and kind of hard, but it's like you're really just it's a lot of it's just like sanding and like basic stuff. I'm sure it's like that with a lot of things. I remember even when I was working as an art director for a company that did manufacturing, there's so much stuff in manufacturing, like for like cast metals, like die cast, die struck, fully rotational stuff. There's so much of that stuff that I assumed was like a computer, with a 3D file that just spits out this thing. And so much more of it was like hand done than I had previously realized. Even enamels, like I didn't realize that enamels were like very hand done. It's like a craft project. It's so weird, but like manufacturing just brings it to like a massive scale. But I think it's like that with a lot of things. I think a lot of stuff, is more handmade than we realize. Like a lot of people might even, be walking on concrete and forget that somebody like poured and mixed it, and that it's really like an organic compound that's like mixed and very like dirty, but it like comes out all clean and like slick and maybe not clean and slick depending on where you live. But it's point being, it's like it can lay this foundation where you can kind of like forget that this is like a raw material, like it's a thing that like somebody made. Like I don't know. I think that's really interesting. Yeah, Thomas was saying manufacturing equipment is usually much simpler than I think you're saying than like consumers would realize. Yeah, agreed. And again, I never thought like when I looked at like a keychain, right, and it has like glitter but like enamel over it, I didn't realize it literally is just glitter. You know, um, it literally is just let's pour some glue in there and then glitter, and then we'll put some like clear epoxy over it. It's like, really? That's what that is? Because it looks really cool. It's kind of like a French polish on wood too, where you look at like wood that's French polished, it looks like amazing and immaculate, and like all the wood just shines and it's so pretty. And it's like really just like we just sanded this and then like mix these two chemicals and then sanded it and then sanded it and then rubbed it and rubbed it and rubbed it. It's like it's kind of weird, but yeah, it's funny how that that works for things. And similarly with comics, where it's like some people think and I guess now maybe there are like more automated things, but a lot of people will look at like the colors in a comic and be like, man, they must have just pressed color. And then they see somebody coloring and they're like, oh wait, it's like cutting out paper but a little quicker. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much it's pretty much what we're doing. Is like, okay, now I got this color paper, okay, now we're cutting this out. It's always like a little, I don't know, but I always find that really cool. It's fun to learn the steps, and start learning another case where a lot of it's just time. Because a lot of people look at things that are manufactured and they're like, well, that would be crazy. That would just take a lot of time. And it's like, yeah, it does. Yeah. And I guess, there are things like CNC machines and stuff like that, like really simplify processes. But even that, like even what the machine is doing, I think a lot of people are like thinking it's doing something it's not, until we get AI and then we just have like a thief running around just stealing stuff and saying it's theirs. Thomas was saying That's why I love watching how it's made. Dude, I love that stuff. You know, like, and that goes back a long way. You guys will remember this, but like, do you guys remember like the Sesame Street episodes where they go to like a factory, or Mr. Rogers? There's a couple of Mr. Rogers episodes where I think they go to like factories. I think one of them, Mr. Rogers went to like a crayon factory. It's like the coolest thing ever. They show like how the crayons were made, and like the like wax being dyed, and like these little like machines that are like rolling them down the aisles and stuff. It's just cool, man. It was cool when I was a kid. It still is cool. There's these beautiful videos. There's a music shops. Yeah, Thomas was saying I remember those well. Yeah, 100%, right? Oh, Drink the Paint Water said, but you also need to know color theory. So many people don't know what they don't even know. Yeah, 100%. Like, a lot of people may not understand why I made the sky purple. You know, I was like, well, I mean, I got this like purpley thing because I got this like, you know, analogous palette going on. Well, it's a split. It's a split compliment. But anyhow, point being, it's like, yeah, that's what we want. You know, we want to make those color theory choices. Okay. What is this? Oh yeah. So anyhow, like on those like videos is like how it's made things. There's a YouTube video or YouTube channel that I like a lot. Called Andertons. It's like a store in if you guys are in England, you'd be familiar, like if you're into music, because they're like one of the biggest shops in England. And they have a really fun channel, but where they like review guitars and stuff. But they did this series recently where they go to like the Gibson factory, and then they have like, you know, the PR guy from Gibson like literally walk them through the factory and be like, this is the point where we do this. This is the point where we do this. This is a machine we use to do this. This is how we pick our woods. And it is flipping cool. It's like amazing. They did one at PRS, at Fender, and one at Gibson's factory. And I think even if you aren't into guitars, just seeing those factory tours is like, it really makes you, at least for me, it made me really appreciate like the art of what is being done, as well as like the chaos and kind of beauty of, you know, weirdly, like just the organization and structure of like a really well built assembly line, like, you know, really solid quality control. It just really makes you admire like the kind of mechanism and the human beings that are making these things. And also it really, again, it's like one of those beautiful moments where you're like, wow, like you know, there's so many things that are, you know, handmade. Like a lot of people don't realize a lot of pickups are still hand wound, you know, that's nuts. It's like, you know, a lot of them are still hand wound, at least at Fender. And that's just wild, you know? But anyhow, yeah. So we're getting close, guys. I think we're almost at the like stopping point here, which is a bummer because I'm really enjoying hanging out. Well, we're not quite there. We're almost there though. We're almost at the stopping point. We're not quite there because I still have to do that wall. But I will say, you know, thank you to everybody who's watched this live. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on a Friday. I'll probably be on tomorrow and working. And I will be, I don't know how often I'm going to be able to do the guitar thing because it's all dependent on when the components arrive. So when the frets arrive, I'll probably work on the frets, and so on. And a lot of it's contingent on the fret and the neck work before I can get into the nut, which I have, as well as the other stuff. Insert poor taste jokes wherever you want at that point. There's one other little spot. I feel like here is supposed to be there we go. There we go. Okay. I missed one spot. And then we'll check out what it looks like shaded. Thomas was saying, believe me, a well-designed assembly line and good process control is a blessing if you work there. Yeah, and it's amazing. Like these big dog guitar companies, like they are just like it's incredible to see, you know. And again, it's like I think it's that the long history of some of these factories where these are like procedures that have been refined and refined and refined for like some of them for like 100 years, you know. Okay, everything that is not colored I leave magenta. I am happy with the results here. I appreciate you guys. If you haven't yet, please click that like button and make sure you're subscribed and you've hit that bell so you get notification when we're about to go live. And I appreciate you guys very much. But make sure you hit like before we end this. And I will just say good night to you guys. Have a happy Friday, or I guess Saturday now, depending on where you're at. It's about 12:30 here, so it's Saturday, bright and early in the morning. I'm going to call it a night, and I will see you guys on the next live stream. Thanks for hanging out. And again, you guys are great. All right. Have a good one. Bye.